Unable to go it alone? Stay tuned. This is Damon Cart from NLP Gym, bringing you cutting-edge Neuro Linguistic Programming tools and technology to help you create the life that you desire. If that sounds good, please click subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can get these videos on a regular basis. What is codependency, and why do you not want to be codependent? Google defines codependency as being in a dysfunctional relationship where one person relies entirely on the other person for all of their emotional and self-esteem needs. For these relationships, the person who is codependent is usually codependent with someone who is either a narcissist or who has narcissistic tendencies. This is not always the case, but it often is the case that a narcissist will find someone to be codependent on them, which is why that person who's codependent will often take a lot of crap from someone because they feel like they get all of their emotional and self-esteem needs met with this person. So even when they get trashed and put down, they're still hoping to get back to that place, and they're too afraid to walk away from the relationship because they feel like they'll be completely giving up their self-esteem and all of their emotional needs because they can only get it from that one person. And the narcissist is usually pretty good at making them feel that way, that they are the only person who can give that to them. So this isn't a video about narcissism, but I did do a video on narcissism, and I will link that here. Just check the corner right here, click the card. In NLP, there is something called Perceptual Positions, also known as triple description. There is first position, there is second position, and then third position, also known as self, other, and observer. So if I'm in first position, also known as self position, that means that I am fully associated into my body and seeing everything through my own eyes and hearing through my own ears. So if I'm remembering something, I can associate into that memory as if I'm actually there, or I can see that memory as a movie. Now, if I see that memory as a movie, then I'm seeing it from an observer position. So I'm seeing myself in it, and I'm seeing everyone else in it. That would be what we would call observer position or third position. So if you think about in a storytelling, first person, and then there's second person, and then third person. Third person is that narrator who's not involved in the story. And then we have second position or other position. So that's the other person. And sometimes we do that. We sort of drop into someone else and take their perspective and look back at ourselves. Okay, this is a great exercise to do. I've done other videos on this. I will also link one or more of those other videos to this video as well, so that you can have more of a description of what this is like. So you can do this in memories, or you can do it in real time. So if you were right here in front of me, then I could be associated, where I really have the perspective of being fully associated, fully in my body, and paying attention to you. Then I could have a sense of coming from your perspective, dropping into you. And this is where empathy comes from. This is where sympathy comes from, our ability to do this. This is what really separates us from the other species, is the fact that we can do this and experience this empathy on this level. So I drop into you and look back at myself, and I'm really coming from your perspective. I'm not being me standing where you're standing. I'm being you standing where you're standing, looking back at me. And when I do that, I will get a strong sense of empathy and sympathy for you. In a sense, I'm also kind of modeling you. This is great for building rapport. And then I can jump out of myself and not be in you and go to a neutral perspective, kind of like what they call the fly on the wall perspective, and observe what is happening. Now, this is great for pulling in different types of information. In fact, geniuses do this. They're able to jump into multiple perspectives rapidly and pick up information from all different perspectives. You can also think about it as camera angles. So if you have different cameras set up, each camera is taking in a different perspective of the same event that's happening. So what happens when someone is feeling sympathy for someone else is they're actually going second position with them. But you can overdo this, and overdoing it, that's how codependent people live. They are constantly in second position with the other person. Sometimes they can be in second position with just everybody. You've probably met people like this. They're always helping people, but their own life is in shambles. Their own life is dysfunctional and terrible. And you might even have said to that person, if you're trying to help them out, is like, hey, if you just put some of that attention on helping others back on yourself, your life would turn around. Like everything would be so much better. But they don't include themselves because they're always in second position. They're not taking themselves into account. And this is the same thing that's happening in a codependent relationship, is they're constantly thinking about the other person. They're constantly concerned about their needs, their welfare, their desires, and they're basically living for that other person. So you want to be able to have the choice to go first position, second position, and other position, and be able to do this at will and when you want to, and in order to gather up more information. But you always want to be able to come back to yourself. You always want to be living from who you are, from yourself, because you can't really live for anyone else. You can only be yourself. So if you think that you might be in a codependent relationship and you are the codependent one, start to notice that. Start to notice how you're always going second position with that other person. And then imagine what it would be like to come back to yourself and fully associate into yourself. Now that might be a little bit too hard for you because you would probably have already done that. Something is probably preventing you from doing that. Maybe not, but there's a good possibility. Maybe start by going third position, or what we call observer position. What would it be like to watch a movie of you interacting with the person you're codependent with? What might you see and hear or even feel when you do that? You might be a bit surprised. And then from the third position, then see what happens when you come back to you in this position. Now, most people are, at least for some of the time, are in their bodies. They can be present and in first position. But in a codependent relationship, what will normally happen is they may be going around throughout their lives, throughout their day, in first position, except when they're around that other person. When they're around that other person, they suddenly jump into that second position. So what you can do is you can do all this in your mind first, because when you're actually in that person's presence, it might be overwhelming. It might be too strong and you can't help and you just naturally go second position. So when you're not in their presence, when you're just maybe at home or somewhere else where you have a little bit of time that you won't be interrupted, you can just take some time to concentrate. Imagine what it would be like. Imagine that person is in front of you right now, and you may already notice you're in second position looking back at yourself. You're in their bodies. You're associated into them looking back at yourself. And then notice what happens and work at this. It might take some time. Notice what happens when you float up out of them and you come back into your own body. Now, if you feel resistance to doing that, don't resist the resistance. That's going to take more out of you, and it's only going to strengthen the resistance. This is a unique opportunity to get really in touch with whatever it is that's preventing you. Get in touch with that resistance. That resistance has a positive intent behind it. It may not seem positive because it's keeping you in a codependent relationship, or it's keeping you codependent. But you want to check in with what is that, and even ask that part of you that's resisting coming back into your body, what is the positive intent behind the resistance? What is it trying to do for you in a positive way? And you may have to dig deeper and deeper with this, like really go more into it. If it's saying that it doesn't want something, you need to reframe that and say, okay, well, if that's what this part of me doesn't want, what does it want instead? So you want to get a positive answer out of this. It might just be something like it's protecting you, like you don't feel safe in your own body. So then you would want to go deeper with this. Okay, if I'm doing this to protect myself, I'm getting out of my body and I'm going into this person because I believe that they can protect me, that I can't protect myself, then now you know where to work. Now you know what you have to work on, because there's no way that you are truly safer associating with someone else than being in your own body. Being in your own body is really where you can protect yourself. It's more about fear and trying to escape. So you might find that you're opening a can of worms here when you get into this, but at least you know now, at least you're working on it, and you probably should see a therapist or someone who knows about these things so that they can help you, lead you out of this. So just know, if you feel like you're codependent, or if you have people who tell you that you're codependent, or you feel like you're really in a dysfunctional relationship, check in with this. See if you're overly associating into the other person. It might be a very quick fix. It might just be a matter of realizing what's happening, then coming back and associating into yourself and being very present and associated in you. But if you find that you can't move back into your own body when you're around this person, then that might be a good indication that you need a therapist or a coach to help you do that. Check out my website, nlp-gym.com. There you will find some free NLP training you can download directly to your phone, your tablet, or your desktop and get started immediately. Also, check out my Facebook page, NLP Gym on Facebook. There I pretty much post whatever it is I'm up to in real time. So if you want to know if there's an upcoming online training that I'm releasing or a live training or a talk that I might be giving in your area, you will find it on the Facebook page. If you like this video, please click like right down here. And of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do that right now. Take care.